Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Nickel from the League of Women Voters of the Mount Baldy area. We're here tonight to do a candidate forum for Area 5 of the Claremont Unified School District. I want to thank all of you for joining us. We have Cheryl Fiello with us and Mark Reynoso, who are candidates for District 5. I just want to say the League of Women Voters has a long history of conducting candidate forums and is known for uncompromising standards and fairness and transparency. Today's questions have been sourced from parents, teachers, local nonprofits, and the community at large. Both campaigns were invited to submit questions, and neither candidate has seen the questions that we are using in advance. Cheryl and Mark have agreed to the forum rules, which means that neither candidate or candidates' committees may use any portion of today's forum except to post the video in full. The complete forum will be posted on our website and on our YouTube channel. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 90 seconds to answer each question, and 1 minute for a closing statement. And then we'll switch back and forth who starts. So Cheryl, you do your opening statement now, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, Barbara, and to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. For everyone watching, I'm Cheryl Fiello. And like many residents, I came to Claremont 23 years ago for our excellent schools. I was recruited to Claremont High School as a chemistry and biology teacher, where I served there for 12 years. And during that time, I was fortunate to have really engaged and supportive school board members that came into my classroom and saw something magical. They invested in me and opened up opportunities that eventually led me to become a district administrator, where I was overseeing educational technology, teacher professional development, and science standards implementation throughout the district. And so that role has really especially well prepared me to serve on the school board, as it's given me exposure to nearly every classroom throughout the district. I've worked in kindergarten classrooms at Sumner Danbury and special education classrooms at El Roble. It's given me a broad understanding of the district and really looking at our students' journey through TK through 12. So in 2019, I left CUSD at the calling of my family to help support my family's dairy, where I am a quality assurance manager and I set high expectations. I put policies and procedures in place. I collect data and maintain accountability to customers and consumers and regulatory agencies. And those are all skills that translate really well to service on the board. So since leaving CUSD, I've remained really involved in the education community, serving as the Chaparral School Site Council Chair for the last 6 years and serving on the Claremont Educational Foundation Board. I'm running for school board to maintain a healthy, high-functioning school board that remains intensely focused on academic achievement while nurturing the whole child. So thank you.
Mark, your opening statement.
Awesome. I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting me on this forum. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mark Reynoso. I'm running for Claremont School Board Trustee Area 5. I'm a Claremont native. I've been here my whole life. I love this community. It just runs deep in my bones. I'm the 4th generation. I have 3 kids, 2 of them at Condit, 1 at El Roble. I'm a small business owner in the electrical field. We do predominantly commercial. We're based out of San Dimas. My wife's a special education teacher in Pomona Unified. Running for school board's really near and dear to my heart. I was raised by a classroom teacher. My dad was a teacher at Mountain View District, also the CTA president. My wife deals with 7th and 8th grade special education in Pomona, and it's really, really special that I get to be part of this. What really got me motivated to run for school board was my daughter last year got into a fight. Not really a fight, she got bullied. She was punched in the face by a boy, and the school really didn't have a response. And it was just really sad to see that I didn't feel safe for her going to school. The district didn't really do anything to assure that she was safe, and other girls, as a result of that, were punched in the face. So I love this place. I'd love to make it a better, address some of the issues that we have at hand, declining enrollment, multiple lawsuits within the district, and see if we can enhance student achievement.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Question number 1, we'll start with Mark. If and when CUSD faces a budget shortfall, what means would you favor to create a balanced budget?
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's a matter of addressing one of our biggest issues that we have within the district, which is declining enrollment. Over the past 5 years, we've lost over 1,000 kids. Historically, Claremont's had 7,200 kids. Today, we're under 6,200. And there is positive enrollment in other districts like Bonita Unified. So it's not a matter of facing a shortfall. It's going to happen. We need to find the root causes to why we're losing pupils and figure out how to keep more kids within the district. We have lost 64 kids this year that went out of the district that lived in Claremont. That's unacceptable. We have Padua at Western Christian. They're busting at the seams. They're building classrooms. So we need to do whatever we can to make Claremont the school of choice.
Thank you. Cheryl, same question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
If and when CUSD faces a budget shortfall, what means would you favor to create a balanced budget?
Okay. So CUSD is facing a budget shortfall, and it's a budget shortfall projection for at least the next 3 years, partially because of declining enrollment, as Mark had stated. Also, there's decreasing state revenues and the expiration of COVID stimulus or COVID recovery funds. So those 3 things are going to have a combined impact on the district as a whole. My priorities are to, as we're facing a budget deficit, is to keep those priorities focused into the classroom. So the things that are impacting students directly. And the way that we do that is to focus on the CUSD commitment, which is the strategic plan that had extensive input from the community and outlined 6 focus areas for the district as a whole. And those are academic achievement, the whole child, access and equity, student and staff safety and wellness, and engaged community and family partners. And so, and alignment of fiscal resources and human resources. And so those 6 focus areas really need to be the focus of the budget, and prioritizing within those areas the things that have the most impact to student need. And those are going to be the areas that we're seeing the greatest need, which are academic achievement and getting back to pre-pandemic levels of student achievement, and also addressing our mental health and behavioral supports.
Thank you. Question 2, Cheryl. How can the CUSD implement structural changes to incorporate greater sustainability practices district-wide?
Okay. So a great first step of that is just within the last year that CUSD was recognized as a green ribbon school, and was actually awarded this prestigious honor in Washington, D.C. And that was part of our sustainability efforts. That has everything to do with our commitment to using solar energy and having solar panels at all of our school sites, having replaced our HVAC units and modernizing windows to be more energy efficient, and also looking at our gardens that we're having on campus, and including community partners and sustainability partners within that. I think we can do more about our recycling efforts that are going on within our sites. And I think part of that has to do with bolstering those community partnerships.
Thank you. Mark, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Sure.
How can the CUSD implement structural changes to incorporate greater sustainability practices district-wide?
I think I agree with Cheryl. I think they've done a phenomenal job with the solar. I think they've done a great job on revitalization of some of the schools. I think where we are lacking is our recycling program today. If you walk through a lunch campus, you will see the waste of food. You'll see a lot of plastic, a lot of items that could have been boxed. It comes down to kind of portability. And so we need to find ways to do better forecasting at lunch rather than waste these items, because those are costing the state money ultimately, and a lot of food goes uneaten daily. So that's one thing. But in terms of the revitalization, I totally agree with what you said.
Thank you. Mark, question 3. Mental health support has and continues to be a big and growing need for Claremont students and staff. What are your thoughts on the topic and/or specific ideas to address the mental health needs in CUSD?
I think it's an ongoing challenge that takes all hands on deck, especially coming back from COVID. I've talked to several students at CUSD that say that there's a lot of depression. They currently utilize an app called the Stop app, which isn't really intended for suicide prevention, but I've gotten some feedback that it'd be nice to have an anonymous app where people could put that into use, because some of their friends talk about being depressed and not necessarily having outlets. So when you're struggling with resources financially, it's really hard to expand on services, but we have to find a way to make sure that there's safety, that they have outlets like Tri-City or Tri-County. There are opportunities for us to grow those resources, talk about it a little bit more often so people know that they exist, and it's not something that should be frowned upon or ashamed. It should be something that we're constantly checking on the emotional support of these children, and I think having another app would help out.
Thank you. Cheryl, same question.
Can you repeat it again?
Yes, mental health support has and continues to be a big and growing need for Claremont students and staff. What are your thoughts on the topic and/or specific ideas to address the mental health needs in CUSD?
Well, without a doubt, our students returned from COVID with excessive depression, anxiety, isolation that we were not prepared to handle. I don't think any district was prepared for that. I don't think the world was prepared for it. And so since then, we need to increase the supports that we have for mental health. That includes funding resources like Care Solace, which is an option. Families can go online and access additional mental health supports through the district. We need to maintain community partnerships with Tri-City Mental Health, University of Laverne interns, NAMI, and suicide prevention programs. And we really need to add in a behavioral focus. So we need to add in registered behavior technicians that are addressing behavior needs before they escalate. And these would be working with our other mental health professionals like our board certified behavior analysts, and increasing supports for our counselors, our school psychologists, and just leveraging the whole worth of that team, and also doing more communication with our parents and families of letting them know what these resources are and how they're available, because parents are seeing the manifestation of a lot of these needs and behaviors even before they're in the classroom. And so getting that communication out would help.
Thank you. Question 4, Cheryl. School board members are responsible for protecting the interests of all students, regardless of disability, ethnicity, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. The controversial topics of book banning, gender-neutral bathrooms, and informed parent policies are prevalent in schools today. As a school board member, how would you address these concerns if they arise in the future?
Okay. Well, I think it's important to note that the school board is responsible for governing public education, and public education serves all students. And that's a difficult balance to keep in mind, that we have to create a safe and welcoming environment for all students of all races, ethnicities, religions, gender, socioeconomic status, ability, disability. And it is the role of the board to really set the vision and goals, which, going back to that CUSD commitment, there is equity and access as one of those goals, and really establishing policies and maintaining policies that are non-discriminatory and provide all students to have access very broadly to the full educational curriculum. And so that means seeking input from community members, from our associations, to inform those policies and having that broad input into those.
Thank you. Mark, same question. I'll repeat it for you. School board members are responsible for protecting the interests of all students, regardless of disability, ethnicity, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. The controversial topics of book banning, gender-neutral bathrooms, and informed parent policies are prevalent in schools today. As a school board member, how would you address these concerns if they arise in the future? You're muted.
That's a phenomenal question. I don't believe that Claremont is book banning or isn't inclusive. I think we do a phenomenal job of keeping an inclusive environment. And I think it's the board's job to continue to do that. I do believe if you talk about disenfranchised, I've been walking door to door, talking to a lot of families, especially of special needs. And what's interesting is they feel that they're disenfranchised when it comes to having access and equity in terms of needing an advocate or an attorney to have the resources that they required. So as far as I'm concerned, it's our job to keep an inclusive, safe environment for all children so they can thrive in the environment and learn. And that's exactly what I intend to do.
Thank you. Mark, question 5. Many students depend on the school lunch program, but many families express concerns about the poor quality of food served. Considering challenges like government regulations and limited funding, how would you work to improve the quality of food in CUSD schools?
Well, I talked about it earlier with the recycling. It's really a travesty that a lot of food gets thrown away because the quality. So if we focused a little bit less on just putting out mass quantities and really quantified how many students require lunch and put together a better program that's palatable, that's nutritious, that provides them so they can learn after lunch, we'd be better off than just focusing on mass quantity. So I think it's something we have to do better. They don't do a great job of it today. And I'm not the expert at this, so I would obviously lean on some resources to find some different ways to bring new food ideas that are impactful to the kids.
Cheryl, many students depend on the school lunch program, but many families express concerns about the poor quality of the food served. Considering the challenges like government regulations and limited funding, how would you work to improve the quality of food in CUSD schools?
Well, first, I think it would be engaging our nutrition services department and seeing what hurdles they're having to meet those needs, and really looking at exploring the funding and how that funding is happening. I also do know that with my work with Dairy Council of California in there, that the USDA does have grants that are available to school districts, and I'd be interested to see if CUSD is pursuing those. And those grants are specifically focused on bringing back scratch cooking. And that includes providing facilities that are available at school sites to do scratch cooking, and providing training and professional development to school chefs and bringing that in. So I'd like to see where we're at in that if we've leveraged any of that USDA grant money, because the USDA does oversee the school meal program. And then in terms of the selection within the parameters that we have, I'd really like to see families and students included in that meal planning process. We used to have a really great event every August where potential vendors that could be providing food to the school district were brought into the multipurpose room at El Roble, and families were given the opportunity to come in and taste those and to rank them and to give feedback to nutritional services. I'd also like to see increase in what we're doing with our gardens at our schools, and what capacity we have to actually locally grow some produce, bring back our salad bars, and have additional partnerships with community groups.
Thank you. Question 6, Cheryl. CUSD, like many California districts, as you guys have already mentioned, is facing declining enrollment. What strategies do you suggest to address this, and how will you ensure that efforts to boost enrollment, considering the challenges faced by LGBTQ students, students of color, students with disabilities, and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds?
Okay. So as we already mentioned, CUSD is facing declining enrollment. That is not unique to CUSD. That is a statewide problem. The state as a whole is seeing declining enrollment and decreased birth rates. And so we are seeing that as well. CUSD has really staved off that declining enrollment for quite a long time. It's now a new dilemma for us because we have been a destination district. We have been a district that students want to come to, and about 23 to 24% of our students are actually inter-district transfers that are coming into CUSD from the surrounding community. And so I think it's really important to maintain CUSD as that destination district, maintain our reputation for being an inclusive and diverse community that really has high academic excellence and is really focused on the whole child. We are a district that fosters our love of arts, music, technology, we need to keep that going, and we need to continue to grow that. We also need to look at the data of whatever barriers that we have in place for students to be accessing some of our programs and make those more available. We need to be adding in additional attractive programs, like we've recently added in the middle years program to augment or supplement our international baccalaureate program that's been very successful at Claremont High School for many years. So all of those additional programs help maintain us to be a destination district.
Thank you. Mark, CUSD, like many California districts, is facing declining enrollment. What strategies do you suggest to address this, and how will you ensure that efforts to boost enrollment consider the challenges faced by LGBTQIA+ students, students of color, students with disabilities, and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds?
It's really interesting because Claremont used to be the school of choice. And so when you look at Bonita Unified, they've had positive enrollment the past 2 years. When you look at Upland Unified in regards to Claremont, on a percentage scale, they have lost less students in Claremont. So there's a lot we can do to attract students back. I mean, Cheryl mentioned it. We have the middle years program at the middle school, which is a phenomenal one. It funnels into the IB program. There are other things like Upland has GATE. We don't have GATE, so I think we need to expand on our programs. But in terms of data, we don't have any data to why we're losing students. We lost 64 of them last year that transferred out of CUSD. We don't understand why these private institutions like Western Christian on Padua are bursting at the seams. So we need to conduct exit interviews with children that we are releasing to other schools to understand, is it sports? Is it because we don't have the programs, we don't have the facilities? We need to make Claremont the school of choice like it used to be.
Thank you. Mark, chronic absenteeism is one of the most pressing problems facing our district, as it has a direct impact on student achievement and the district budget. What ideas might you bring on board in an effort to combat this issue, absenteeism?
Yeah, I mean, everything circles around ADA, right? And so typically Claremont, I think pre-COVID hovered between 98 to 99%. I believe today they're around 94 to 95% of pupils in the seat. And so we need to have a full force attack in terms of having campaigns. A lot of things cost money to do, to educate, to have resources, put together some fun promotional things for the children, to have no absentees for the year, whether it's an in-and-out gift card or something of that nature. But we have to find a way to keep kids in the seats so we do not decrease revenue any further than we already are. And it's got to be hit at the district level. It has to be hit at the school level, and even with the parents. We have to have it resonate to the parents how important it is, not just from a dollar standpoint, but from an education standpoint, that if kids are missing school, they're going to get further behind, and it's a lot harder to catch up.
Thank you. Cheryl, chronic absenteeism is the most pressing problem facing our district, as it has a direct impact on student achievement and the district budget. What ideas might you bring to the board in an effort to combat this issue?
Well, this is a daily discussion going on at every single school site, that students can't learn if they're not at school. And so a huge piece of that has actually been mental health supports. that many of our students, especially at our secondary level, have said that they're facing increasing depression and anxiety that makes it very difficult for them to go to school. And then if they're not going to school because of depression and anxiety, then they're also not receiving services to address depression and anxiety. And that problem continues to cycle. So bolstering those mental health supports and social emotional learning for students, letting them know that this is a safe place that they can come and they can get support is very important. Engaging the Student Services Department with initiatives and programs that they have going on to address chronic absenteeism. It can be as simple as calls home to talk to families to see what are the barriers that they're facing to getting their students back into classes. And then outreach to parents and families and letting them know how important school attendance is, and also to let parents know with travel contracts and time away from the classroom, what impacts that has on both on learning and on the financial impact of the district as a whole.
Thank you. Question 8, Cheryl, how would you balance your decisions as a member of the board with the input of parents, students, teachers, and other stakeholder groups?
Okay. So I think it goes back to that public school is for all students, and really honing in on what the role of a school board member is, which is really about establishing that vision and those goals and honing back in onto that CUSD commitment that had broad community input and support, and focusing on those goals and realizing that the board is responsible for establishing policy that will drive that vision and holding the superintendent accountable for that. And every step along the way of developing those policies, I believe the board needs to seek input from communities, committees, from our association groups, from the community members to inform that policy. And a big piece of that is to have input from student groups as well. So there are multiple student groups like the Superintendent's High School Advisory Council that provides some much needed input to the superintendent that can then also be brought to the board. But it's about having really that multiple input and perspectives being brought as policy is being developed.
Thank you. Mark, how would you balance your decisions as a member of the board with input of parents, students, teachers, and other stakeholder groups?
Let's start by saying that the first and foremost, the most important stakeholder is the student. I mean, we have to put them at the front of the line because it's a reason they're going to school to learn, so they can go to college, further education, go to trade school. In terms of our teachers, teachers are extremely crucial and extremely important to the success of the students. And to the district, it's the district's job to carry out these measures and make sure that we achieve the goals of the students and the teachers and the parents. And so we want to make sure whatever we're doing, how is it going to further our students? How is it going to help them emotionally with their social skills? How is it going to support their student achievement? How is it going to further along their development? And those are the things at the forefront. And if it doesn't do that, then it's probably not the right thing. And so that's kind of where I stand with that.
Thank you. This is the last question, and Mark, you will answer it first. How much of an impact on students and staff do you think class size has, and how might that impact your policy positions?
Class impact, I mean, class size impacts students tremendously, not just students, but also teachers. The more pupils you have to monitor and have to teach, and there's a variety of range of kids in the classroom, and you have limited resources outside of that, it makes it harder on the teacher. And so I think we need to keep class sizes as small as possible so the kids can have more focus with the teacher, and so they can focus on their skill set. In terms of class size is always a balance because there's a cost to that as well between teachers and students. And so we need to do what it takes to continue to reduce it.
Thank you. Cheryl, how much of an impact on students and staff do you think class size has, and how much might that impact your policy positions?
Well, having been a classroom teacher for 12 years, I can tell you classroom size really absolutely matters. In my time in Claremont High School, I would have upwards of 200 students a day coming in and out of my classroom. And that really impacts as a science teacher, the number of labs that I can provide, the lab materials, the amount of individual tutoring and intervention that I can provide to students. And so the lower that class size ratio is, I think the more that it benefits students and it benefits teachers. I was fortunate enough in my time at Claremont High School to see when we were at 20-1 in freshman English language arts, when we had reduced class sizes in elementary as well. And I know it has a huge impact. It does come down to those fiscal resources of how many teachers can we have, what sort of budgetary impacts, because that is our largest budgetary piece of that. So I would absolutely be supportive of reducing class size. It really comes down to if the budget can support it. But having been a classroom teacher, having a reduced class size makes a big impact.
Thank you. It's now time for closing remarks. You each have 1 minute for closing remarks. Cheryl, you go first.
Okay. So I just want to thank you, Barbara, for your time tonight, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity. To viewers, I would love to earn your vote. I'm very proud of my service to the children and families of CUSD over the last 23 years and the broad community support I've earned during the campaign. So I've made a commitment to engage the community throughout my campaign, as evidenced by numerous town halls and office hours and meet and greets and community events. I've been at every board meeting since March. I've been transparent with members of with the community, with members of my campaign. My campaign is funded by over 60 community donors, and I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of over 200 community members and the Claremont Faculty Association. So my qualifications, my commitment, my transparency are indicative of the type of service I'm prepared to give. And so I'm looking forward to being part of a collaborative body that ensures that we maintain Claremont's reputation for high quality public education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, your closing statement.
I want to say thank you to the league. And I remember not that long ago when I was a student at Claremont, Claremont was the school of choice. I don't believe it's a school of choice anymore, but I sure as heck believe it can be. And I think we need to start focusing more back on student achievement, promoting safety within our schools, protecting our teachers. Our teachers got a 1% pay increase. Our CFA did a terrible job in negotiating the contracts for the teachers. They focused more on this election rather than put the money back into the classroom. And it's just a shame. And so there has to be some change that needs to happen. And it starts with holding the district accountable.
Thank you. I want to thank both Mark and Cheryl and everybody who watches this video. We're going to share it widely. This election will be held on November 5th. Early voting and vote by mail has already started. If anyone who is watching this needs more information about any part of the election, up or down ballot, please go to the League's site, vote411.org, and put in your address, and you will get information about all the candidates, all the propositions, everything. I just want to remind you that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We never support or oppose candidates or parties. And if you're interested in knowing more about us, please visit our website or email us at info@lwvmountbaldyarea.org, and we'd be happy to get in touch with you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good night.